Finally we walk a terrain where we don't have to fight until our lungs give up, like a galley slave in the Roman army. This is bearable. They had walked alongside the path ever since the sun came up, which occurred at around 7 o'clock in the morning. Sadu had barged into each and every tent and waked the lot, and they were up and marching soon thereafter. They did eat breakfast, even though it was brief and most humble. They walked in the same order as they did before they reached the main road. Jacques Sadu leading the way, with Nathan and Jamie just behind. John and William were last in line, and today it was William's turn to pull the sled. "Tell me when it's my turn to pull the sled," said John. "It looks heavy." William grunted. "It's state-of-the-art quality, John. Special design. No worries, I can do this all day." There was no snowfall or headwind today. While the temperature was still bone-chillingly cold, it did feel like a remarkable improvement on yesterday's weather. The view around them was all but familiar. Long endless plains of ice and snow for as far as the eye could see. They were now at the northern peak of Ross Ice Shelf, the nearby mountain pass ahead, although no mountains could be seen today from afar. The mountains may be closer than we think though. There's a bit of mist and haze today that might block the view. "This is the most silent place I've ever been to," said John out loud while he looked around. No birds. No animals. No tree, shrub, or bush. Not even the smallest flower or any kind of plant for that matter. It's eerie. Eerie indeed. And I thought our wildlands back home were desolate and spooky enough. We truly walk a no man's land. William grunted and growled as he dragged the sled forward. Folks back home, if they knew we were here, they'd probably think that we are busy wrestling polar bears or seals or something. When it comes to Antarctica, even the moderately educated man or woman is woefully uninformed when it comes to the polar areas. It is as a dead zone for sure. Nobody in their right mind could ever think that living out here would be a sensible idea. Like we discussed before, this entire place is designed to keep trespassers away. The world's end. The days went by, and the group kept taking turns on the sled. After just 2 weeks, they had reached the last stretch of the Transantarctic Mountains, and they were now just days away from Amundsen Scott. They had been sparse with the food and water rations, in case of emergency. When they encamped by the side of the main road this night, they went to sleep with the promise given by Jacques Sadu that their destination would be reached within just 3 days. John was in the middle of deploying his tent when William came over. "Almost there," he murmured. This was a rite of passage for the history books. Jesus. He dropped the handle of the sled and kneeled to the ground, breathing heavily. "Okay, I might have over-exaggerated the part where I promised that the sled would be light. It was a bitch to pull it today. How could it possibly feel heavier when it weighs lighter? I mean, we've almost used up all the wood and a large chunk of the food and water supply already." John shrugged. "Might be because we are on a much higher elevation than when we started. By the coast, we were only a couple of feet above the ground after all." "Might be," said William and kept exhaling loudly. He stretched out on his back and closed his eyes. "The sled. William, we are going to need the sled. After we reach the South Pole, the ceremonial South Pole, John. It's not a real South Pole. Whatever. Amundsen Scott, thereabouts. We are going to need the sled, and we are going to have to take it all, if we are to push even further like we have been planning to do for months now. Do you hear me? We are going to have to take their stuff." William opened his eyes slowly and yanked himself off the ground. "You want us to steal the sled with all the resources for their home journey?" "Yes. Maybe. Perhaps. If need be. I'm just saying, we need it more than they do. They could stay put at Amundsen Scott when we get there, or they could walk to Vostok Base a couple of miles east. I've studied the map as carefully as you have, so I know what's around. But I doubt that would even be necessary, as the people at Amundsen Scott will take good care of them, I'm sure. What kind of person are you anyway, if you won't extend a helping hand to the fellow man, trapped at the southernmost extremity of the world?" William had a confused look on his face. "I didn't expect such a callous proposition from you, John. I hear what you are saying, but doing something like that will only be on the table if things are absolutely dire at Amundsen Scott. We'll wait and see how the mood is when we get there and how we are received. Be careful, John. They are not to be underestimated." "Well, Sadu isn't. How would we pull it off without him noticing?" John shrugged. "I don't know. But if we are serious about this, we've got to do whatever is necessary, right? We've come this far, and when dealing with something this big, like lifting the veil off the greatest deception ever known to man, the end might justify the means. We need to be armed to the teeth when we depart from there. We are heading into the literal unknown. There is no telling if we are ever going to run into some natural resources further down the road other than the vague hints given by Admiral Byrd like 60 years ago. It's a huge gamble, and we don't know if there'll be water or animals to hunt. Probably not. So we have to be pragmatic about this. We thought about persuading the team to push on even further, but that was before we met them in person. Do you really think that Sidhu is going to let us hijack his expedition and delay his long-expected payment from your father? That is all the vile man cares about. Cashing in. We are doing this or not. No half measures. William swept his fur coat around him and looked around in the empty, white wilderness. Yes, we are doing this no matter what. But I'd like to avoid following through on your idea if I can. I'd rather not betray anyone who's followed us this far. Whatever their motives may be, they deserve better than being left alone. I don't like the idea of us scurrying away like thieves in the night. But let us talk about this later, when we are certain that nobody can hear us. I'm scared of them overhearing us talk about this here. Sound can be heard further away down you think out here. I'm heading back to my tent. He left him there and walked slowly towards his own tent, wading through the snow. How did I get so cold all out of a sudden? How can I even suggest something like that? He saw Nathan and Jamie talking to one another from 50-60 feet away outside of her tent and immediately felt ashamed. I can't let my obsession of getting to the truth of the matter wash over me. The quest for knowledge shouldn't have to collide with my moral values. For if I do forsake my values, this mission is meaningless. When the group woke up next day, the tents had all snowed in. A thick layer of snow covered every one of the tents, and they had to shovel it through with their bare hands to escape it. John dug through several feet of snow until he managed to crawl out. I'm not going to die, being entombed in the middle of Antarctica. We are not done yet. He opened a bottle of water and quenched his thirst. He then opened a new bag of pemmican and ate generously to get going for the day. As he was eating, Sidhu approached from nowhere and gave him a pat on the shoulder with his rugged, bear-like arms. 2 days left, Kupa. We'll make it. Despite the return of the headwind and the heavy snowfall, they managed to keep a steady pace under Sidhu's leadership. They walked and walked, with an unchanging landscape all around them. A white, frozen tundra spread out in all directions. In case I make it out of here alive, I vow to move to the Bahamas and live out the rest of my days there in peace and solace. I also vow to eliminate everything snow-related in my life, apart from the ice cubes in my cocktail glass at some hip bar by the Nassau beach. 2 days later the snow still fell from the skies, and the temperature had dropped away below 20 degrees Celsius. Might even be -30. Or -35. He reached for his phone with shaky fingers and tried to refresh the weather application, which had stayed frozen at the same temperature and location as to when they arrived at the Antarctic shoreline. Oh, right. Zero coverage. Global positioning system doesn't work here. Maybe because we're not on a globe. Or those pesky satellites above are just having an off day. Maybe they're as burned out and exhausted as we are here on the ground. He pressed frenetically on the refresh icon, but it wouldn't budge. He raised it above his head, but he was still offline. I guess this is a harbinger of some sorts. We are really close now. On the eve of April the 12th, 29 days after they abandoned Savannah and commenced their southbound journey, Jacques Sidhu finally caught sight of something he had been waiting for a very long time. It was the Canadian's turn to pull the sled, and he powered through the snows like an enraged bear. His scalp was all frostbitten and his beard entirely covered in snow, making him look like Father Time himself. The headwind kept hammering the group, and the sled screeched in the wind. It was so hazy and snowy that they could barely see 10 feet in front of them. But all of a sudden, they saw something far away. A faint light glimmering in the wide inferno. An electrical light. Through the snowstorm they marched, and silhouettes of a man-made structure began to crystallize through the fog. A large rectangular concrete building lit up by bright lights all around it. They could see small windows lining up on the front side of the building, and on the roof of it flew a banner. The flag whisked around so rapidly that they could not recognize the flag until they were but a couple of feet away. John squinted and finally, he could see it. It was the Star-Spangled Banner, the flag of the United States of America. Just beneath the flag on the front side of the facade, there was a large majestic emblem with some words imprinted below. United States Antarctic Program, National Science Foundation. Jacques Sardou wiped the snow off his beard and marched resolutely towards the main entrance gate, with John and the rest following just behind him. We are here. The Amundsen Scott Base, named after the renowned polar explorers Robert Falcon Scott and Roald Amundsen, officially holds the title of being the most southernmost outpost on Earth. Situated by a glacier at an elevation of 9,200 feet, it houses roughly 50 scientists on a permanent, year-round basis. Built in 1956 by the Navy Seabees, the American Navy Construction Department, the facility had been manned ever since its inception. Finally, John cried out loud. Finally, I look upon a site built by a fellow man again. I never knew I would long so much for a concrete building filled to the brim with strangers of unknown origin, but I did. Civilization. Or close to it, in any case. I can't believe we actually made it this far. Me neither, whispered William as they all stood waiting by the gate. But remember, our journey has just begun. And we should not spend much time here at all. There is no time to waste. Nathan Barnaby had the honor of mending the sled that day. He put it down right next to the gate and took long, deep breaths of air. Did you know that Scott's whole expedition team froze to death up here? The race between Scott and Amundsen was about as intense as the space race between the Yanks and the Ruskies. Who would reach the South Pole first? That was the big hoopla in the early 1900s. Amundsen won, of course. And he managed to shepherd his entire crew to safety afterward, and casualties. Scott's companions were not so lucky. Could we hold off with the history trivia till we've actually been welcomed and greeted inside, Mr. Barnaby? I don't know how you lot feel, but my whole body is about to shut down soon. I am frozen to the core, and we need to rest, said Jamie. Speaking of trivia, I wonder how this base is heated, especially now when the southern winter is looming for real, just weeks away. In June, it's supposed to be -80 degrees Celsius here at Amundsen Scott from what I have read, asked William. Jet fuel, Koopa. They have 3 massive generators nearby, making the facility self-sustaining. William was confused. How would you know? Because I am a professional, Koopa. And as a pro, I do the research before I venture to whatever uncharted place I am going to at that given time. I have a job I was hired to do, and I am carrying it out. Now, let's get ourselves on the right side of this joint. Sardou rang the doorbell. No reply. They waited a whole minute, and then he rang again. And again. Finally, a voice boomed out of the speaker system by the gate. Who are you? Announce yourselves. My name is Jacques Sardou, and I am shivering in the cold here together with my 4 brave companions. I work for Lockheed Martin, and I come on behalf of them. We are expected, he announced. A long pause occurred when time seemed to stand still. The voice on the other end said nothing, but faint, indistinguishable murmurs could be heard from the speakers. Will they not let us in? Are we going to freeze and starve here by the doorstep? The quintet began to worry now for real. What do we do if they won't let us in? Asked Jamie out loud. Sardou put his hand on her shoulder. Relax, Sherry. They are expecting us, and we will be taken care of. I have faith. We are a posse, not to be taken lightly. His prophecy came, true only seconds later, when a loud clicking noise echoed from inside, and the thick steel gate swung up automatically. Warm air blew through the gate, and John felt about as excited about the impending warm welcome as if he was about to jump into a jacuzzi. As the warm air poured through the hallway and enticed them all with the promise of a stay most welcome, they wasted no time and came barging in. They rushed into the entry hall but halted almost immediately. A tall woman dressed in all black stood right in front of them, with a stern look on her face. She had a brooch pinned on the chest of her suit, a logotype depicting a geographical area that John immediately recognized. Antarctica, as seen from above. The pin needle did indeed depict the landmass of Antarctica and was the official logotype of the National Science Foundation, depicting the features of Antarctica with a red snowflake in the middle, highlighting the South Pole. Welcome, she spoke. Strangers in the night. A most unusual occurrence for us permanent residents here at Amundsen Scott. Of course, you fine folks are no strangers to us. I was merely exaggerating. You are most expected. I was only lamenting the fact that during all my time here, this is the first time I've had the pleasure of greeting outsiders into our abode. My name is Paige Coulson, and I will guide you to your rooms. Follow me please. A warm bed and roof over my head for the night. Truly, I am blessed. This is the kingdom of heaven for now. Warm air poured through the ventilation shafts and breezed through the weary group as they followed Ms. Coulson through the dark catacombs. Why is it so dark in here? I mean, you do have electricity, right? Asked John. Oh, said Paige and kept walking onwards without looking at him. Because it's in the middle of the night and almost everyone in this building is sound asleep. There's just me right now who's up and awake. Me and the security staff are awake as far as I know. You lot arrived in the hour of the wolf, gentlemen. We turned the light off by midnight. Do you have liquor at the rooms? Whiskey, bourbon, cognac? I need a nightcap. We've deserved it. Gosh, asked William out loud and yawned. Paige did not reply. She led them onwards, and the sound of her high heels scraping the floor echoed through the hallway. They were ushered in through a long, opacely lit corridor. The walls were tapestried with blue and yellow checkers, with framed photographs hanging from them. About 5 feet apart, the line of pictures seemed to stretch endlessly. John stopped walking in order to have a look at the photographs and lagged behind from the group as a result. They were lit by tiny spotlights hanging from above, and they all seemed to be rather old. Black and white photographs from the 1920s and onwards ornamented the walls, all depicting human activity in the Antarctic. They are in chronological order. I wonder if… He slowly walked through the photographs. The 1930s came and went, then the 1940s, and then… There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. John froze as he had gotten to one of the 1950s pictures and squinted. He heard the footsteps of the group slowly fade out. They haven't even noticed that I didn't follow. The framed picture that caught his full attention depicted none other than Admiral Richard Byrd, a photo taken from McMurdo Station. In the photo, a huge marble bust had been erected by the base. A proud man with his head tilted upwards, in a posture that vibrated virility and the utmost confidence. He read the text engraved under the bust. Richard Evelyn Byrd. Rear Admiral, United States Navy. October 25, 1888. March 11, 1957. The renowned admiral. What on earth did he find on that day when he went further south than any man in history ever had? Oh, if he was alive today. The questions I'd like to shower him with, yeah. Time to get back into line now, though. I'm not missing out on that warm bed for the world. John yanked himself out his nosy state of mind and ran forward through the dim corridors. He suddenly faced a large green door. He opened the door and saw the corridors splitting into 2 directions, left and right. He decided to go for the left, hurrying along the dead silent corridor with only a fleeting hunch as his guide. His instincts were proven true as he soon enough saw the slow-moving group up ahead, with Coulson's high heels ever echoing through the catacombs. He approached them from behind, as if he had never left, and arbitrarily threw out a safe question to ask. How many of you are there here exactly? Coulson turned around and addressed him. 49. Like I said before, most of them are fast asleep right now in their quarters. Things will become livelier in the morning. I see you are skeptical. But I do not jest. These halls will be quite bustling at 6 o'clock when breakfast is served. Oh, yes. About 30 scientists and 15 souls from the staff. With staff I include the cooks, cleaners, so on, so forth. 3 security guys. And myself, of course. With all due respect to the scientists and their scholarly work, groaned William and yawned once again. The most interesting part of your tale was that little tidbit about the breakfast. When does 5 o'clock, when the sun comes up this time of year, she said and smiled in his direction. Ah. Dried fruit, pemmican, and canned food. I've become so accustomed to that daily menu that I can't even recall how a hot meal would taste like. But I can't wait to find out. I'm literally salivating. I have a question, asked John. How are the goods in this facility brought here? I mean, you guys would for obvious reasons be entirely reliant upon outside help, especially during the Antarctic winter, when you are cut off entirely. Those summer shipments they deliver you better be rock solid, or else. You are correct. The goods are all shipped to this facility during the summer months, and they are to last for the whole year. Needless to say, it is of paramount importance that the deliveries are on schedule, and that the products they send us are wholesome. During our winter, which spans from June to December, nothing is delivered. Not even a grain of sand, mind you. We are in a state of lockdown, and all employees are prohibited from leaving the building. Not even for a stroll?" asked Jamie. "Not even for a stroll. Not when your afternoon stroll could mean the end of you. During our winter, your body will be in mortal hazard when exposed for only a minute or less." "Huh. How depressing," said Jamie. "Yes, quite so. Anyway, the shipments. Most of what we have here is delivered from New Zealand. Now and then they deliver us fresh fruit and vegetables, which is a luxury here as far as we are concerned." They followed Coulson to the end of the hallway and turned right when another even longer corridor stretched out. They walked to the very end of it, and Coulson halted by a series of doors at the end of the hallway. "Here we are, my tired guests. Here are our 7 rooms reserved for Lockheed Martin employees. All of them are currently vacant, and there's only 5 of you. So take your pick and make yourselves at home. They are all identical in size and design, so I wouldn't spend much time contemplating which ones to pick. The rooms appear to be so close to one another from the outside that they might even have connecting doors." Sadhu pointed at the door in the middle. "I claim that one." "As you wish," said Coulson. John wondered if it was a calculated decision to claim the middle room. "I still don't trust him. Does he want the one in the middle to keep an eye out on us in case we are up to shenanigans during the night? Whatever it is, better to take a room far away from his prying eyes." "I'll take the one on the far left," said John. William quickly followed suit and selected the one next to John's, while Jamie and Nathan picked the rooms on Sadhu's right. John was relieved over the fact that there was now 1-room gap between his and William's rooms and the Canadians', eliminating any risks of the latter's potential eavesdropping attempts. Coulson gave each and every person in the group a key to their own room and bade them good night. "I'll be in the entry hall if you need me all night. You can reach me by calling me on the telephones in your rooms. There's a direct link to my telephone. You'll call me up directly by just pressing 1 and wait for the beep. Is there anything else before I wish you a good night and sweet dreams? I think you've earned it. Could we have some food served to our rooms? Like now?" asked William. "This base is not a hotel, nor is it a hostel for lustful adventurers. Our cooks are fast asleep, and the breakfast is served at 5. Not before. Can we take a shower? We've been sweating our socks off for weeks, and I think that I speak for everyone when I say that we would love nothing more than changing these rags and to wash ourselves clean." "It would be heavenly if you could arrange something like that," asked Nathan. "I'm afraid not. I understand that you lot would like a bath, but for now we can only offer you lodgings. The water here is rationed. We are only allowed to shower twice a week, and it's under strict guidance as to prevent our fresh water from running out. I am sorry, but we cannot risk it tonight for you. Tomorrow, perhaps. I will ask around. Good night. And sleep well," she said. She walked off and left the quintet standing there outside their long-awaited comfortable beds. "My friends," said Jacques just before they went for their keys. "You have fought like warriors out there, and you deserve a good night's sleep now. All of you. I could not have done it without every single one of you courageous, brilliant human beings. We shall rest here for about 3 or 4 days, and then I'll take you back again. We'll board the Savannah and return to Perth, and then, our work is done, niece me. Good God, Jacques, we only just arrived here. I will have a look around tomorrow and head out when the sun's still up. Don't even talk to me about us being homeward bound, not yet. We have to rest first," said Nathan grumpily, and unlocked the door to his room, went inside, and closed it immediately. "I will follow that wise man's example," said John drowsily, and opened the door to his room. He threw his jacket on the ground carelessly and peeked out of the door to bid them farewell. "See you all tomorrow, comrades," he said and locked the door. The room was completely dark, and John searched for the light switch, which he eventually found with trembling fingers. He lit up the room. "Oh my God. I've never been so happy in my entire life to lay eyes on furniture again. Chairs, a couch, and oh yes, a bed. I don't care if the bed is from Hostens or IKEA. I'm getting stuck in." He threw the rest of the clothes on the carpet and stripped himself fully naked. He jumped on top of the bed and slammed into the mattress with his back facing the ceiling. He took 5 deep breaths and exhaled slowly. He began laughing out loud. "How in the world did I end up here? Just a couple of months ago, I was aimlessly going through the motions at Stockholm University like a zombie. Imagining a future where I'd work for the man my whole life. Now, I am at world's end. He rolled over on his back and looked up and studied the room. It had a sterile aura with dull, grayish tapestries, and the floor looked worn out and aged. The room was tiny, about the size of an average second-class boat cabin. But he did not complain. I am going to sleep all night, wrapped around in these warm covets, and rest my head on this lovely pillow. And cursed is he who wakes me from this. John succumbed to his weariness and drowsed off after only a minute. He woke up with a jolt and found himself on some stiff surface flat on his back. He opened his eyes. Everything was black, pitch black. Complete darkness. Where am I? He wiggled around on the raspy floor of whatever craft he was in. He was certain that he was in some sort of airbound craft as the wind came blowing through him at speeds he had never felt before. And then, he felt it. Hypothermia. He shivered down to the very marrow of his body, and he felt as if he was about to faint. He checked the pulse at his exposed wrist. My heart is beating slowly. 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 He crawled around flailing his arms, trying to find a hold of something to cover himself with, like a blanket. But he saw nothing. He felt a hair rise on his arms as he rolled around on the floor, which felt leather fiber by the touch of his fingers. His body now started to completely shut down, and he struggled to breath, as his lungs seemed to give up on him for every passing second. As the impending fear of death came sneaking up on him, he began to hyperventilate. Muscle spasms jolted through his legs and arms, and he was certain that it was only seconds away until his heart would stop beating. I will die now. Just as he felt as if all hope was lost, he was blinded by a red, flaming light source just above him. He looked straight up and saw a large burner breathing flames into a huge cloth above, shaped like a dome. Wait, that's not just any type of cloth. The burner is spewing flames into an envelope. I'm beneath a balloon envelope. I'm in a hot air balloon. The extreme pain and the fears of impending death seemed to have magically flown away, and he felt fit as a fiddle all of a sudden. He rose to his feet in the wicker basket and reached his pale hands up towards the burner, and he felt the warmth of it pummel through his body. Suddenly, he heard a hissing voice from behind. Seek, and you shall find. Seek the Prussian eagle's final resting place, and you shall be enlightened. The bird of prey lies buried where the ivy grows. He spun around and looked around. Only air. Emptiness. There was no one there. He could not see a thing apart from the burner and the inside of the wicker basket. Monsieur Picard, stuttered John. Monsieur Picard. August, is that you? The hissing voice did not reply from the dark this time. Instead, a loud thud was heard from above. Knock knock knock. John woke up with a jolt once again, this time for real. What the hell, John? John? Whispered a voice from the other side of the door. The voice kept uttering his name. John rose to his feet and walked to the door. What is it, William? I'm trying to sleep. We have to get out of here. Now, in the dead of night. It is our only chance if we want to accomplish our mission. Let me in. We have to talk. John opened the door slowly and let the visitor inside, fully dressed as he was. Clad in the same garb as he had been during the entire walk to Amundsen Scott, William seemed to be in a rush to depart the premises. What time is it? Asked John and rubbed his eyes. About 5 o'clock. Almost sunrise. I've been thinking about something you said the other day, John. About the end justifying the means. Forget about it and go to bed. I was clearly out of my element, suggesting that we'd steal the sled and all the— No. You were right. No cities were ever conquered without bloodshed. No wars have ever been won cleanly. It would be lovely to stay put here for a couple of days more, eat good food, and have the opportunity of chatting away with top scientists and military men at the dinner table. But that is not why we came here, is it? We came here to lift the veil, and so we shall. We went through bloody hell to reach this place, but we have a long way to go yet. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. John allowed a moment to pass for his words to truly sink in. Yes, you are right. Though, as a history buff, I object to the idea that no army ever conquered a city without bloodshed, but that does not matter right now. We have a long way to go yet, and we can't settle in here and get all comfy. Exactly, John. We are so close to revealing something monumental and exposing it to the world. If we play our cards right. Where's the sled now, with all our gear? John was still in a dizzy state after having just been yanked away from the land of dreams. We dragged the son of a bitch into the entry hall and left it there, if I remember correctly. So, it's still there, unless Coulson or someone else moved it. William walked around nervously in the tiny, cramped room and stared into the walls. Good. Wise up, John. We are leaving in 10 minutes. What? Are you serious? Yes. Now is the time, before the others awake. And don't worry about whether this plan is morally right or ethical. Sadu, Barnaby, and Vickers will survive here. They are safe, even though we do have to snatch their equipment too. Sadu will be furious over the fact that he won't be able to personally hand us over to my father and collect his reward, but he'll have to live with that. And besides, maybe my father will pay him anyway for good measure. We don't have time to dwell about these things. Let's go. Are you with me? John pondered for about 3 seconds, and then he nodded in approval. He got dressed and put on his thermal underwear and the rest of his winter outfit he wore all the way to Amundson's cot. At last, he put on his thick black winter boots by the brand of Gore-Tex, which he had bought from L&P Nuremberg last autumn at one of their posh stores in uptown Ostermalm. I am ready, he said. They scurried out of the room and went out to the corridor from whence they came only a few hours ago. John threw a fleeting glance at the framed photographs of Richard Byrd, Roald Amundsen, and Robert Falcon Scott as the pair whisked through the hallway they had navigated through with Coulson last night. William rushed through the corridors, so he did not have any time to spare. William was firmly pointed towards the entry hall and the sled. They came to the end of the corridor that connected with the entry hall, and things started to look familiar. There it is. The bastard. Right where we left it. And the cargo's still there, from what I can see. Right then and there, John saw Coulson sitting in the corner of the great entry hall slouched over a Mac computer. Damn it. I had forgotten all about her. And I guess so did William. Coulson was startled by their clumsy arrival in the entry hall and rose to her feet. Gentlemen. Can I assist you in some way, she asked, mildly surprised by the fact that 2 of her guests were up and about in the middle of the night dressed for outdoor activity. Well, hello Paige, said William. We just wanted to blow the cobwebs and head outside for a while. It isn't winter down here yet, so you can't halt me with threats of a lockdown just yet. We just felt the need to head outside and stargaze for a short while. We saw the Aurora Australis on the way here, about 2 weeks past. I've heard that at Amundson's cot you can see the lights even clearer. Coulson nodded. She nodded. That is correct. The night sky is so really beautiful this time of year. Go out and look then. But be careful. Even though winter is not upon us yet, it can still be freakishly cold out there. Thank you, we will make sure of that, said William. Coulson returned to her slouching position by the Mac computer. Oh, and just one more thing, said William. Good God. We are so close. Now is no time for chinwag, William. I've always been told, he continued, that you fellas get together and watch John Carpenter's The Thing as an annual tradition some time of year. Is it true? Paige Coulson stroked her red hair and chuckled loudly. It is, actually. Twice a year, in fact. I've been here for 5 years, so I pretty much know all the lines in that movie by heart. So, yeah. It's not just an urban legend. We do love us some Carpenter. John and William laughed in unison by what she said, and then proceeded to walk casually to the entry gate where the sled lay. William shoved his hand inside and fondled the inventory to make sure everything was still there. Food, water, and equipment for 5 is still here. Let's move. Quietly. Stealthily. Don't let her see us leaving with the sled in tow, he whispered to John. John peeked by the wall and tried to see what Coulson was doing. She was, as usual, staring at her Mac computer. Now. The coast is clear, she's miles away. They opened the gate, and the falling snow came pouring into the hall. They dragged the sled out of there as quickly as they could, and closed the doors. There. Now John. In the name of everything you hold dear, run. I mean, let's move. It was then, in that very moment, that John for the first time began to doubt the veracity of their quest. But, where? Where do we go from here? This is your idea. We've come to the South Pole. We are at the very spot where all official maps, longitudes, and latitudes can no longer be trusted. How do we find the right course further south, so that we don't just end up where we started by going in circles? William was not fazed. I know how to walk in a straight line, John. I learned how as a kid, when I served in the Scout Corps of Sweden. There are many tricks. First off, we shall follow the compass, as it is still functioning, yes. John reached for the compass in his pockets and revealed it. Well, it isn't spinning in all directions, if that's what you are saying. It's not acting as I thought it would at the South Pole. It points to the north. How many times do I have to tell you that the South Pole does not exist? It's just a ceremonial South Pole, and the compass acts accordingly. Anyway, for as long as the compass still works, we will simply walk in a straight line towards south. And in case the compass does begin to malfunction due to electromagnetic anomalies I suspect that we will encounter further down the road, well, there are some old school tricks in the book we can make use of. The best old method is to drag a pole or a stick behind us. We drag it constantly through the snow to make sure we walk in a straight line, avoiding any concerns that we might walk in circles. That makes sense. Maybe because I've never been a scout myself. I played the clarinet as a kid. My father enlisted me when I was like 9 years old, so it wasn't by my own accord. I hated those years when I looked back as an angsty teenager. But in hindsight, I can only bow down and say that the whole experience was most educative for me. William grabbed hold of the handle of the sled and squeezed it tightly. All right, John. Time to start walking. Dead reckoning south is the way, and we must not falter. Not even for a moment. If we end up walking in circles, we will die of starvation or freeze to death in this no man's land. Follow me, John. I lead the way. By Antarctic standards, the temperature outside was mild. The sun was on the rise, and she illuminated the white, desolate area around them. The headwind that tormented them on the way to Amundsenskade had died off, and even the snowfall seemed to peter out. He trudged through the snow next to William and the sled in tow. And kept drifting away to that soft, comforting bed inside the base that he had been tucked into only an hour ago. Not to mention that breakfast that was promised. I'll never get that chance of tasting what they are going to serve the scientists in just an hour from now. Omelette, bacon, sausages, cheese, fried tomatoes. Halt. Arre. The loud, booming voice came from behind of them, and it was all too familiar. They both spun around 180 degrees in tandem, commingled by fear. Oh no. No. How did he know? How did he know that we left? Jacques Sardou stood there, his boots firmly on ground with murder in his eyes, and a pistol in his right hand pointed at them both. He looked like an enraged grizzly bear with his large, encompassing fur coat wrapped around him. Mes amis, he called out calmly. What do you think you are doing? They were petrified. John looked into William's eyes, and he was as terrified as he was. John turned his attention back to the threat at large, who stood there with a drawn gun pointed at his heart. He did not know much about firearms or the like, but it appeared to be a Glock the Canadian held. John and William raised their hands in the sky. All right, don't bother replying to that question, my little friends. Because I already know the answer. I heard the conversation in your room, Monsieur Willander. Those walls are thin, and your skeevy little lies were intercepted, I'm afraid. I will point it out to La Dame Coulson when I take you back to the station that their walls need to be looked at. And you will follow me to the station. Not only are you rats sneaking off in the dead of night, you are also taking our supplies. Merde. I cannot abide a cowardly, mischievous light like that. Vermin like yourselves. There is nothing to be done about it, you offspring of parasites. I will have to deal with you properly. Sardou waved the gun in the air and pointed it at them both, back and forth. I've kept my eyes on you scoundrels the whole time. There is something you've not been telling me, and to be honest, I don't really care. But I have known of your deceitful plans ever since we met by the Perth docks, Monsieur Milton. His long red scar, that spiraled down all the way from his forehead down to the neck, gleamed in the Antarctic morning sun, and he looked more brutish now than ever before. My work is not finished until I've escorted you back to Monsieur Oscar. After that is done, and my payment has been delivered, you are free to do whatever you snotty young men desire. But now, you shall come with me. I always finish what I have started, Coupa. William took one small step forward and tried a Hail Mary attempt to sway the angry assailant. I am sorry that you got caught up in this mess, Monsieur Sardou. It was never our intention to besmirch you or your honor, nor did we want to drag Vickers or Barnaby in the dirt. You are fine men and women, from what we can tell. And we also don't want to scam you in any shape or form. I know you were promised a reward, but such a reward is out of my hands. You'll have to take it up with my father, for John and I have something important to finish. We have business down south. We will keep walking, whether you like it or not. You can either let us go or shoot us like a coward from behind. The choice is yours. That was a brave threat. Or a foolhardy one. I have to do something. I have to act. Now or never. As stealthily as he could, he put his hands down while Sadu was busy staring down William and prayed a silent prayer that the Canadian would not catch him in the act. He slowly reached for an item in the sled and concealed it with his right hand behind his back. As Sadu kept the gun pointed at William, he amassed enough courage to take a few steps forward. Mosu Sadu. Jacques. I think it is time for us all to calm down. You go your way, we go our way, and we'll forget all about this little pickle of ours. They do say that time heals all wounds. Shut up, here Arden pointed the gun towards John's chest. What's that you're holding down there behind your back? Show it to me, and back off. Show it. John called his bluff and took another step forward. Are you normally packing heat during polar expeditions, Mosu, or is this a special occasion? Feels like a bad habit you've got there. Maybe you should see a doctor for paranoia. Sadu aimed the pistol right at his head, and they were now only a few feet apart. Take one more step. I promise you, child. I will blow your brains off, unless you back off, and show me your hands. John defied him again, and took another step forward. So, there's nothing we can tell you that will make you let us off the hook? Nothing, child. Nothing at all. You brats are coming with me, Mizani. John grimaced and sighed. Your funeral, Mosu. I will tell you something now, whether you want to hear it or not. You see, William and I are pointed towards greener pastures. Deeper into Antarctica, to be precise. Further south. We are searching for the lands beyond. Lush, hospitable patches of land that Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd found near this area, some 60 years ago. What? What are you talking about? Stand down. Last warning. He cocked his pistol. There is no easy way of spelling this out, so it's better to just lay it all on the line. Your whole life is a lie, Jacques Sadu. Your life, and the lives of everyone else you know, and those you don't know. You are stuck in a matrix, Jacques. You've been outfoxed, just like everyone else. Everything you think you know is a lie. We don't live on a spinning ball whirling through infinite space, Mosu. The earth is flat, and we aim to prove it once and for all. Sadu lowered his guard for a nanosecond and stared at him with a baffled look on his face. What? What are you talking about? You are insane. John saw his chance and plunged himself forward and tackled the old man right in his stomach. Sadu stumbled around, still standing but clearly in a vulnerable state. John pulled out the item he had concealed behind his back. One of the last logs the sled had to offer, and swung it. He hit Sadu right in the head with a log, and the roguish beast of a man fell with a thud in the snow. The pistol landed there in the snow, ripe for the taking. John reached for the gun and felt his fingers taking hold of the firearm. When he was struck from behind with such a force that he nearly fainted. Sadu was standing again and punched him hard. John was out of breath and screamed out loud in pain. He fell to the ground and tried to breathe. He looked up and saw Sadu's hands taking a firm grip on his neck. It's over now. He's going to strangle me to death. It is over. Sadu strangled him with full force, and John could no longer breathe. He squealed like a stuck pig. The Canadian's arms pressed hard against his neck, and John tried to remove Sadu's firm grip on his throat, but it was all for naught. He's too strong. It's like wrestling a buffalo. It's over now. From nowhere, the sound of gunfire echoed through the snowy plains. John felt the pressure on his throat all of a sudden go away, and he looked at Sadu, who fell over by his side and landed on his belly facing the snow. John gasped for air and tried to breathe normally as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. He saw William holding Sadu's gun in his right hand, standing there crouched over the big man. William removed his gloves and put his index finger on the brute Canadian's carotids. He's dead. He's dead. I must have shot him right in the heart. From behind. I've killed someone. I've murdered someone. Said William. William was in a state of complete shock over what just had transpired and started shaking like a leaf in the wind. John walked up to the body and rolled the corpse over so his face could be seen. Sidhu's eyes were wide open, and he had a bizarre grimace on his face, making the deceased look eerily ghastly. John spun around and hugged William tight. Calm down. Calm down. There's no worry. There's no worry. I've got you. You saved my life. You did what had to be done, and I'll be forever in your debt. Feel no guilt for what just happened here. Now is not the time to reflect about moral qualms. We have to get out of here, quickly. Yes. But, what about the corpse? Do we bury it? There's no time, urged John. They probably heard the pistol shot from Amundson's cot, and they'll send out a search party to find out what happened here. We are only a couple of 100 feet away from the base. They will come out for sure, very soon. Let's just leave the bastard here. The snow will cover him within an hour or two. Now let's move. Paige Coulson sat by her booth in the entry hall of Amundson's cot and haphazardly browsed the internet, passing the time. It was 5:30 in the morning, and she struggled to stay awake. I hate the night shifts. Next year I'll make a request to only work daytime hours. I'm done spending my time watching cat videos on YouTube in the middle of the night. Had she been more alert and observant, she would have been suspicious about the activity going on the past 15 minutes. First, the two young boys in the group had gallivanted down to the entry hall, and they behaved in a manner most strange. They wanted to leave the facility for a minute or two, which they were allowed. At their own peril. Winter's not here yet, after all. But why did they bring that cart thing with them? Why would they need a big bulky sled if they just wanted to breathe some air outside? I was just about to put it away myself in the storage room. It was as if they were taking off for good, those two. 5 minutes after the departure of the two youngsters, another person from the Lockheed Martin crew came lumbering through the dark. It was the roguish Canadian man, and he was also fully dressed and equipped for the outdoors. He barged into the hall and screamed at her, demanding to know the whereabouts of Milton and Willander. I did help him as best as I could. Pointed him in the right direction. The exit. I don't know where they went after that. Geez. What's going on with these weirdos? Oh well. None of my business. Well above my pay grade. She returned to her computer and began to plow through the Amundson's cot intranet, bored out of her skull. Just as she had opened a dreadfully long-winded memo from Danielle Browning, the expert at the base, she heard an unmistakable sound from outside of the station. The sound of a gunshot. What the hell? Gunfire? Should I call for security? No. I'll go see for myself first. These people, as strange as they appear to be, did strike me as rather harmless. Well, apart from that Sidhu fellow. She grabbed her winter coat, put her boots on, and hurried out of the main gate and looked round. Nothing out of the ordinary from what I can see. Where did this come from? She looked down to the ground and saw shoe prints in the snow. Prints of boots on the ground. And a cart being drawn alongside with them. She followed the tracks, and it did not take long until she saw a figure in a brown coat flat on his back. Oh my God. She ran as fast as she could to the corpse and cried out loud upon witnessing the macabre sight. There he was, Jacques Sidhu in the snow with blood seeping out of his chest, turning the color of the snow underneath him into a crimson-red tint. She checked his pulse to make sure, but as expected there was nothing. The man was dead, as clear as day. She rushed back to the base, jumped into the booth, and picked up the emergency telephone. What do I do now? What's the protocol when a murder has occurred outside the premises? If there is a protocol for polar homicide, I'd probably slept through that presentation. Things have been so quiet and uneventful here all these years. I never thought I would have to worry about these things. Her heart raced, and she waltzed nervously around in the booth, trying to come up with the most logical cause of action. Calm down. Think. Yes. The MP. The military police. She tore through the drawer in her booth and quickly found the item she searched for, a detailed map of Antarctica. Call the MP of Vostok or McMurdo. It was commonly known amongst the residents of Antarctica that McMurdo was the most guarded base of the stations in the area. McMurdo was a militarized station with army barracks and barbed wire encircling it. She had seen it herself. But it is too far away, way too far off. McMurdo is located by the coast. It will take them days. No, not days. Weeks. Even with snowcats or other vehicles at their disposal, it would take weeks. She moved her fingers over the map and placed her thumb on the Vostok base, situated far closer to Amundson's cot than McMurdo. Coulson had never visited Vostok and did not know much about it, other than that the facility supposedly was an old Soviet high-tech research facility, now jointly owned by Russia and the Americans. She did not hesitate and dialed the number. Vostok Station, Antarctica, answered a male voice on the other end of the line with a Russian drawl. "This is Paige Coulson from Amundsen Scott Base." She paused for a moment and breathed slowly. "Yes," said the Russian hurriedly. "A murder has occurred just outside of here and we need backup. Of the military kind. I will tell you everything I know about what just transpired, but there is no time to lose now. Send me your very best men." William took the lead and John trailed behind with the sled. They had searched the sled for an item, any item, that could serve as a stick or a staff that would fulfill the idea of drawing a line in the snow in order to keep the course straight. Cameras, blankets, tent pieces, first aid kit, paraffin lamps, sleeping bags, food, water, knife, a pair of scissors, and other tools were scattered in the cart, but they found nothing that would seemingly do the trick. John had searched through the entire inventory until he settled for the lesser of two evils. A camera tripod. He handed it over to William, who now dragged the tripod stick in the ground as he walked onwards in complete silence. They had barely spoken a word ever since the incident. "He is clearly shaken up. He just killed someone. Who wouldn't be? Even though it was just. But I wish he'd suffer through the post-traumatic stress a later time. Not only are we walking towards a place that may for all intents and purposes not exist, and we are walking fueled by blind faith that there is truly something monumental out here, being concealed by the powers that be. We are also now wanted for murder, for sure. I suppose there is a chance that they did not hear the shot and that Sadhu's corpse will be covered by snow once the snows start falling again. But I have my doubts about that. Better to assume the worst and hope for the best." As they marched in complete silence, John's mind began to wander. His ruminations led him to a conclusion that was morbid at best and terrifying at worst. Our chances of making it out of here alive are very slim. With a traumatized William and just hoping against hope that we are walking in the right direction. South, further south. And then what? Then what? How do we find our way home if we walk into a place that literally does not exist on the map? Done is done, though. We have come to the point of no return, and the only thing left for us is to walk. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. They walked and walked. The whole day they walked in silence and only said the odd word to one another about the surroundings. It was an unusually clear and sunny day, which was a small comfort. They walked for as long as the sun was up without resting breaks, until William halted. The sun had set so low that they could barely see a thing. "I guess we'll set up shop right here," said William tiredly. "Right here. We've walked sufficiently far away from Amundsen Scott and we'll be safe. For now. I don't think they could catch up with us this quickly if we are being hunted. Maybe nobody's coming." John agreed. "Help me with the tents before it gets pitch black, will you?" "All right. Just one tent, though. We'll both sleep in it. We'll probably be dead in a day or two, so we might as well spend our last hours together. I'm glad that the leader of his expedition is confident about our chances." As they were in the thick of setting up the tent, John got to think about the wood. "Should we get a fire going tonight? We have a few logs left in the sled. The very last of the bunch." "No, I don't want to light a fire tonight. Even though I'm positive that any pursuers are still far behind our tail, risking exposure isn't worth it. Besides, I don't even know how to get a fire going. It's a shame that we didn't involve Jamie in our plot to escape because she was aces." John cackled with laughter. "So, when you were in the Scout Corps, they taught you how to walk in a straight line, but forgot to teach you something so elementary like starting a fire. I'm sure they would have taught me, but I left the Scouts after just a couple of months. One could argue that there are some stones left unturned when it comes to my education there." "One could argue that," John said and smiled. 10 minutes later, the tent was deployed and ready. It's a shame that there isn't even a hint of a tree to be seen in this frozen, never-ending wasteland. "It may be calm right now, but during the night trees provide cover for the wind," said John. "Well, I promised you many things to reel you in for this escapade. Comfort was not one of those." John grimaced. "I didn't think it would be comfy, and I doubt that either of us could ever call the past month we suffered through as comfortable with a straight face. A little bit of help from the weather gods would only be prudent, I think. The odds are not in our favor right now. Maybe we should get down on our knees and pray. O gods of wind, snow, and hail. Be kind on us tonight, for we would hate to wake up to a snowstorm blowing our tent away. William laughed. It was the first time John heard him laugh ever since the slaying of Jacques Sadu. If Hades is coming to ferry us over to the river Styx, I think he should do it after we've finished this, not before. I agree, said John and walked up to the sled to unload the paraffin lamp. If Hades is coming to ferry us over to the river Styx, I think he should do it after we've finished this. Not before. I agree, said John and walked up to the sled to unload the paraffin lamp. Let's go inside. It's been a long day, and we deserve a good night's sleep for the wars to come, said William. They went inside the tent and rolled out their sleeping bags next to one another. John kindled the lamp and placed it between the two bedding places. William undressed and tucked in under the sleeping bag. Do we have any extra blankets in the sled? Or, better, do we have anything proper to drink? A smoky whiskey or a fiery vodka would warm my body and soul more than 1,000 blankets ever could. How's our portable drinks cabinet doing? Do we have a stolichnaya in there? Asked William. Blankets, yes. Spirits, no. You know more than well that we don't have any alcohol left, you budding drunkard. It was your idea to sneak off from a Munson Scott in the middle of the night. If you wanted booze, couldn't you have stolen something from their storage before you woke me up? Sorry. I forgot all about that. William smiled as he spoke, but it was wiped off his face soon enough once the conversation died off. I killed someone today, he continued. We are doomed no matter what happens, we are on the brink of annihilation. Oh well. When they put my headstone up at Jersholm, I hope they'll know that I lived a short but eventful life. Enough with the gloom and doom. We still have a chance of making it, even though I admit that the universe is pitched against us right now. Do you have any coverage on your cell phone? William burst into laughter. My phone? It's been dead for days. Do you see any phone chargers out here? I should have charged it at a Munson Scott, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway. There is zero coverage out here because there are no radio towers mounted in Antarctica. GPS does not work here, but you knew that already. We lost communications well before a Munson Scott, and we couldn't call someone now even if we wanted to. And even if we could call someone who'd come to our rescue, the Antarctic ambulance will come barging in here and split the ice to rescue us. I know. I was just wondering. We have to finish this the analog way. We'll walk for as long as our hearts are still beating. Amen, said William and drank from his water bottle. What do you suppose my father will think when word reaches him about what has happened down here? When they discover the body of Jacques Sadu, and they'll pin the murder on the both of us. What will he think? John grabbed hold of the paraffin lamp. It radiated a soothing, pleasurable warmth on his hands and jolted out in his whole body. He closed his eyes and thought about what to answer. He'll be confused and confounded. But at the same time, he'll try to reach a logical conclusion that even if we did take someone's life, we did not do it in cold blood or for our own sick pleasure. I mean, he doesn't know me, but he knows you. He'll try to make sense of it all. There is nothing logical about this expedition, John. I think we can put that to bed. And I have the right to say that because this is my expedition, after all. I will grant you this, my friend, said John. You do have a nose for adventure. What I have experienced these past couple of months is more memorable than the 25 years that preceded them. And we will fight to the last gasp. You off someone today, yes. And I don't know how that feels. But move on, it had to be done. He tried to strangle me. It's all right. I do feel better now. I have put it behind me. The man was vile, and he only cared for money and fame. We are on an important quest that will reshape the future for all mankind if successful. We are not doing this for money or other provincial purposes. A cause that will, if we are being honest, likely be the end of us. Sadu would never have given his life for a cause greater than himself. Do you agree? John looked at his googly-eyed friend and smiled. I agree with everything you just said. Whatever happened, happened. Now let us rest. A long night's sleep for the very last stage in our daunting expedition. How about that? William raised his water bottle. Cheers for that. Nasdrova. He unscrewed the cork on the water bottle and began to drink. But no liquid came pouring out of it. He looked at the bottle and laughed out loud. The water's frozen. If I was a superstitious man, I'd say that this is a foreshadowing of our endgame. Don't even start with that. Nothing is written, not even our endgame. Good night. Good night, John. John put the light out and the tent went completely dark and silent. Only their prolonged aching breaths in the cold could be heard. Sergeant Alexei Larionov walked towards the corpse and crouched by the body. He ran his fingers across the blood-covered chest of the Canadian, which had turned pitch black. Well, just as we've been told, this man met his maker several days ago. These thugs have a head start, and we are not likely to catch them with snowcats. Could we even catch them with helicopters or if we were to scramble jet fighters? I doubt it. His hands fondled the dead man's body, and he began to prowl through the coat pockets. He found a large leathery item, which he pulled out and examined. Wallet and ID. Jacques-Olivier Laurent Sadu, born on July 27, 1967, in Quebec, Canada. His ugly mug stands out even more on this photograph. Private Wigwam. Get the body on the stretcher and drag it back to Amundsen Scott for me. Sir. Sadu's corpse was frozen to the degree that it took 3 men to scoop him up. Privates Wigwam, Franson, Panzerhelm, and Neppelberg had to bring out the ice picks to hack the ice away that pinned the corpse to the ground. Finally, they managed to heave the desecrated corpse on the stretcher and off to the base. Larionov spun around and saw the silhouette of Amundsen Scott. It was situated only some 1,000 feet away from the place of Sadu's death, but nevertheless hard to see in the snowstorm. What to do here? The outer perimeter is under threat. The 2 young men could pose a real potent threat. These irrational kids. What are they doing? Are they on a wild acid trip? Or are they really searching for what lies only a couple of miles inland? I don't care though. They are a threat to their surroundings, and thus, the whole world. Larionov had arrived at Amundsen Scott with 20 men strong the very same morning and conversed with a certain Paige Coulson, who gave him the quick rundown of the situation. 2 young men from the Lockheed Martin group had killed a fellow crew member and taken off with the supplies belonging to the remaining 3. I will head back to the base and make a call to someone above my pay grade. John Willander and William Milton now pose a threat to the entire world, and they need to be eliminated.